Raise your glass for the real achievement in this family. My uncle's voice sliced through the fancy restaurant like a siren. Forks paused midair. People twisted in their chairs to look at him. I was already bracing myself. We were seated at a long table under soft golden lights, the kind of place where the cheapest appetizer cost more than one of my grocery store shifts. My cousin Brooke sat near the center in a sleek blazer, her new, big city lawyer, identity shining brighter than the crystal chandeliers. My Uncle Roy clinked his champagne flute again. To Brooke, he shouted, grinning wide. Our brilliant attorney. Real job, real salary, real future. Everyone clapped. I did too, even though my fingers felt stiff. Then, like he'd been waiting for this moment all night, he swiveled his gaze toward me. And of course, he added, voice dropping into that mocking tone I knew too well, we've got, what's your official title again, Haley? Button pusher? Beep beep girl at the checkout. A few cousins snickered. Someone actually mimicked the sound of a scanner. Beep, beep. My face heated instantly, but I didn't look away. I'd stood through worse. Mom nudged my leg under the table. Just smile, she whispered through clenched teeth. Please don't start anything. Uncle Roy lifted his glass higher. Seriously though, he went on like he was doing a stand-up routine. Every family needs a success story. Brooke's out here arguing cases, impressing judges. He waved a dismissive hand in my direction. And some people are still stuck behind a cash register. The words hit harder than I wanted them to. Not because they were true, but because he thought that's all I was. Cash register girl. That's what they called me now. Not the girl who stayed up nights building something on a second-hand laptop. Not the girl who learned more from YouTube tutorials than she ever did from these people. To them, I was just that beep at the end of their errands. Brooke gave me a tiny, apologetic shrug, but there was pride in her eyes. She liked being the chosen one. Always had. Uncle Roy, I said lightly, forcing my lips into a smile. It's a point-of-sale system now. Super advanced. I tapped the table. Very high-tech. Someone chuckled. He didn't. Don't get smart with me, he said. If you wanted to impress anyone, you'd have gone to law school like Brooke. You're too comfortable ringing up groceries. Comfortable? If only he knew how many times I'd walked home dead on my feet, then opened my laptop and worked until sunrise on contracts, code, and investor emails. Across the table, my dad stared into his drink. He hated conflict. He also hated telling his older brother to shut up. Uncle Roy smirked at me, enjoying the spotlight. But hey, kid, somebody's gotta scan the cereal while Brooke's out here billing $600 an hour, right? More laughter. Louder this time. I felt my chest tighten. My fingers curled around my napkin, twisting it until the fabric bit into my skin. I'd promised myself I wouldn't let them drag me into this again. Then I remembered the quiet conversation I'd had with a waiter 10 minutes earlier, when I'd slipped my card into the check folder and asked him to run it ahead of time. Right. I had options now. I loosened my grip on the napkin and looked up at the waiter as he passed near the end of the table with a tray of drinks. Excuse me, I called, keeping my tone casual but clear. Is that card I gave you ready yet? He turned, immediately recognizing me. Yes, ma'am, he said. Just a moment. Uncle Roy let out a barking laugh. Look at that, even the cashier wants to feel fancy tonight. Using a credit card in a place like this. Careful, sweetheart, those interest rates will eat you alive. I met his eyes and smiled, calm now. I'll manage. He rolled his eyes and turned back to Brooke. Anyway, as I was saying, when you make real money, you don't have to worry about counting every dollar like... His gaze flicked to me again. Some people. I took a slow breath and let it out. They didn't know about the mornings I'd spent on Zoom with investors from New York and Seattle. They didn't know about the small business owners who now used our app to run entire stores off a tablet. They didn't know I own more of that company than anyone else on Earth. They just knew I clocked in at the Pine Grove Marketplace 5 days a week. The waiter came back, moving smoothly around my cousins. In his hand was a slim, black check holder. He stopped beside me and spoke clearly. Here you go, Ms. Lane. We've finished processing it. Every conversation at the table seemed to pause for a second. I didn't rush. I looked up at him and, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, asked, "Thanks. Is my black card back yet?" The words landed like a dropped plate. My cousin Jake froze mid-sip. Two aunts stopped whispering. Even Brooke's confident smile faltered. The waiter flipped open the folder, pulled out a sleek, jet-black credit card, and placed it gently into my hand. A real one. Heavy. Minimalist logo. The sort of thing you don't get by just scanning groceries. The air shifted. My uncle stared at the card like it was a prop. Like it couldn't possibly be real. "Well, what is that?" he demanded. I turned it between my fingers, letting it catch the light. "It's just a card," I said lightly. "The bank insists on sending them when your spending profile hits a certain tier." My dad blinked. "Haley, since when do you?" Brooke leaned forward, eyes locked on the card. "You don't get one of those unless you're, like, very high income. Or your business is." I shrugged one shoulder, heart thudding, but my face stayed relaxed. "Yeah. The company has been doing all right." Uncle Roy's jaw tightened. "Company?" he repeated. "What company? Last I checked, you were still bagging groceries." "I still work at the store," I said. "I like it there. But that's not my main job." I slipped the black card back into my wallet slowly. 3 years ago, I started a little thing with a friend from community college. Point-of-sale software. Inventory management. Online ordering. We help small shops compete with big chains. A few cousins exchanged glances. My mom quietly covered her mouth with her hand. "We launched quietly," I continued. "No one here really asked, so I never bored you with the details. But last quarter, we crossed 7 figures in revenue." I gave him a small, almost apologetic smile. "Turns out, there's money in helping people run their cash registers better." This time, no one laughed. Brooke's eyes were wide now. 7 figures? Gross, I clarified. Net's a little lower, but still enough for the bank to care. Uncle Roy looked almost offended. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that while you've been standing there in that ugly green vest, swiping barcodes, you've been rich?" I shook my head. "Not rich. Not yet. Just not as broke as you keep telling people I am." Silence stretched across the table like a wire. I let it sit for a beat, then glanced at the waiter again. "By the way," I said, "can you make sure the full tab is on that card? Drinks, desserts, everything. I'm covering tonight." He nodded. "Of course, ma'am." My uncle snapped his attention back to me. "You? You're paying for this?" "Yeah." I gave him an easy smile. "Think of it as my little cashier treat." His mouth opened, then shut again. No punchline left. For the first time at a family dinner, every eye wasn't on Brooke. They were all on me, and this was just the beginning of my payback. My uncle didn't touch his drink for a full 15 seconds. That alone was historic. The entire table watched him, waiting for him to regain control of the moment he'd just lost. He finally cleared his throat. "Well," he said stiffly, "money doesn't mean much if you still work a job like that. Real success comes with respect." I smiled. Respect is earned, not announced in a toast. A few cousins actually hid their smiles behind their glasses. Brooke leaned closer, trying to process everything. "Haley, why didn't you tell anyone? You could have bragged." "You could have." "Why?" I cut in gently. Every time I tried sharing something, someone reminded me that my job wasn't a career, that I didn't have direction. So, I stopped trying to prove anything. My Aunt Evelyn shifted in her seat. She knew I was right. The waiter returned to refill water, but I noticed he kept glancing at my uncle, who sat frozen like someone unplugged him. The black card had knocked the wind out of him harder than anything I could have said. "Good." Brooke finally exhaled. "So, your company, it's really doing that well?" "We're expanding this year," I said. "New hires. More clients. We just signed a deal with a regional grocery chain last week." My uncle's head jerked up. "A grocery chain?" "Yeah." I bit back a smirk. "Kind of funny, right? Cash register girl building the software that'll run thousands of registers." A tiny ripple of laughter passed through the table, not at me this time. At the irony. Uncle Roy pushed back in his chair, trying to recover his dignity. If that's true, he muttered, then why keep working at a supermarket? Doesn't make sense. It does to me, I replied. That job taught me patience.
It taught me people.
It kept me grounded when everything else got stressful. I lifted a shoulder. And, honestly, I like helping customers. Not everything is about ego. A sharp sting hit him, right where I intended. My dad finally spoke up. Haley, I'm proud of you. The words froze me. He'd never said that about anything that wasn't tied to grades or practical goals. Hearing it now felt surreal. I nodded softly. Thanks, Dad. Then the moment shifted again. Uncle Roy, suddenly worried this dinner had turned into Haley's night, forced a laugh. All right. You've had your fun. But let's not pretend one card makes you the big shot at this table. It doesn't, I said calmly. My work does. Then I leaned in just a little. And your daughter's law firm? We're negotiating with them, too. Brooke's eyes widened. Wait, my firm? I nodded. They want to license our software for one of their corporate clients. The meeting's in 2 weeks. She covered her mouth, stunned. You're kidding. Nope. My uncle's jaw clenched. He had officially run out of ways to look down on me. I wasn't trying to steal your spotlight, I added, glancing kindly at Brooke. I meant what I said earlier. Congrats on your new job. You earned it. She nodded slowly, sincerity replacing her earlier smugness. And you earned more than any of us realize. The energy at the table shifted completely. For the first time in years, they weren't laughing at me. They were seeing me. And the revenge wasn't over yet. The plates had just been cleared when my uncle tried, desperately, to reclaim control. He slapped both hands on the table. Well, he said with forced cheer. Let's get back to celebrating Brooke tonight. No need for distractions. There it was. His attempt to shove me back into the background.
But the room didn't shift with him this time.
Everyone's attention lingered on me, waiting, listening. Brooke looked between us, unsure. Uncle Roy, maybe we should hear more about Haley's company. It's impressive. He shook his head sharply. She got lucky. That's all. And luck runs out. I leaned forward, calm, not rising to the bait. Luck didn't build 3 years of code. Didn't negotiate contracts. Didn't create systems used in nearly 200 small businesses. I lifted my water glass. That part was work. My uncle scoffed. You're exaggerating. Actually, I replied, pulling my phone from my purse. Let me show you something. I opened my dashboard, numbers glowing softly across the screen. Real-time analytics, accounts, contracts, revenue charts. Brooke leaned in first, awestruck. Haley, these numbers are huge. My aunt murmured. She wasn't joking. My uncle snatched the phone from her hand like a toddler grabbing a toy. Anyone could fake this. I didn't even flinch. Check the email tied to the account. It's my company domain. He tapped. His eyes widened when it logged in. No tricks, no edits, just raw data. You signed deals this big, he stammered. Yes, I said simply, while you were telling everyone I'd peeked at bagging produce. The table fell quiet again. Not awkward quiet, corrective quiet. Then the waiter returned with the full check. He placed the leather folder in front of me. All set, ma'am. Total is covered. A few relatives went pale. It was an expensive dinner, very expensive. I tucked the receipt away without blinking. Thanks, I said. Appreciate it. And then came the small moment that pushed everything over the edge. The waiter glanced at the table, then leaned slightly toward me. By the way, congratulations. Not many people carry a black card. If you ever need event space booked again, just call and ask for me. Every eye snapped back to me. Uncle Roy's face reddened to a deep shade of disbelief. You've been booking places like this before? Sometimes, I said. Business dinners. Investor meetings. But tonight? This was for family. He leaned back, stunned. I had no idea. That was the point, I replied gently. I never needed you to know. I just needed you to stop treating me like a punchline. He swallowed hard. For the first time ever, he didn't have a comeback. Across the table, my cousin Jake leaned in with a grin. Haley, if you ever want someone to test your software, my shop could use help. Another chimed in. Then another. One by one, the same people who used to dismiss me were now asking questions, real ones. Curious, respectful, even proud. And as I watched them shift around me, something inside settled. For the first time, I wasn't fighting for a place at the table. I had earned it. And soon, they would see the final part of my payback. Desserts arrived, warm chocolate cake, lemon tarts, the fancy stuff people pretended not to like, but devoured anyway. The mood had completely changed. It wasn't tight or mocking anymore. There was something else in the air now. Curiosity, respect, and from my uncle, a deep, uncomfortable silence. I let him sit in it. Brooke scooted her chair closer to me. Haley, I'm honestly blown away. I thought you were just doing the grocery store thing until you figured life out. I was figuring it out, I said with a small laugh. Just not out loud. She smiled, almost shy. You know, my firm works with a lot of corporate clients. If they end up using your system, that's huge. Maybe I could help get your name into the right conversations. That surprised me. Brooke, actual Brooke, offering to help. I'd appreciate that, I said sincerely. While she talked excitedly about possibilities, my uncle finally broke his silence. He cleared his throat, trying to sound casual. So, your company, you think it's stable long-term? Sustainable? There it was, his olive branch, disguised as a question. I nodded. We're growing faster than projected. Everything's audited, legal, backed by investors, and scaling. Yes, it's stable. He stared at his dessert like it was suddenly fascinating. I misjudged you. Everyone paused. My heart thumped, but I stayed composed. You judged the part of my life you could see, I said softly. Not the part one built. He swallowed hard. I shouldn't have mocked you. Any of those times. His voice dropped, almost embarrassed. I didn't know. I know, I replied. But the mocking stops today. He nodded once. Fair enough. Mom squeezed my hand under the table, proud in a way I'd waited years to see. Then the moment for my final reveal arrived. I pulled a small envelope from my purse. Clean, crisp, sealed. Brooke blinked. What's that? I slid it toward my uncle. Something for you. He frowned and opened it. His eyes moved across the page, widened, then shot up to me. What is this? He breathed. The others leaned in eagerly. It's a contract, I explained calmly. Your hardware store is one of the 20 local shops we selected for our pilot upgrade program. New registers, new point-of-sale terminals, inventory automation, the full package. My uncle looked stunned. You chose my store? You've been struggling, I said gently. Sales dipping, outdated systems that showed on your quarterly reports. I tapped the contract. This upgrade will boost your efficiency and help you compete with the bigger chains. No cost for the trial period. After that, discounted licensing. He sat back, overwhelmed. You want to help me? Yes, I said simply. Families should lift each other up, even when we don't always agree. Brooke stared at me like I'd just transformed. My uncle rubbed his eyes. Haley, I don't know what to say. Thank you, Works, I teased. He laughed, a real one this time, not the mocking bark he'd used earlier. Thank you, he said quietly. Truly. The table softened, conversation warming in a way it never had before. For the first time in years, there was no hierarchy, no comparisons, no belittling. Just family. As we stood to leave, Brooke wrapped her arms around me. I'm really proud of you, she whispered, and I hope we work together someday. Me too, I said. Outside, under the soft glow of the restaurant lights, my uncle pulled me aside. You proved me wrong tonight, he admitted. And you did it with grace. That's something I respect. I smiled. Good. Because I'm just getting started. He nodded, humbled. And for the first time in my life, I walked toward my car not as the cash register girl, but as the woman who built something powerful and finally made them see it. A clean victory. A quiet revenge. And a very, very happy ending.